Okay, so now it's my turn. I'm delighted to be here and share some of the pieces that I can with you. This whole area is one that I am very passionate about because it is the bulk of the work I do in the school, is helping our students deal with adversity and deal with the bumps that come up in life and helping them in a way that's empowering, not in a way that takes over for them or doesn't believe that they can't do it themselves. It's energizing them to do it themselves. Before I start with this screen, I'd like to mention that I have been a parent for 27 years, and I have two children, a 17-year-old and a 27-year-old daughter. And when they were born, my #1 role became Mother Lioness, and I wanted to protect them in every way I could. I didn't want them to hurt. I didn't want them to have social bumps. I didn't want them to experience too much pain. I'd sweep the boogeymen from under the bed and do all sorts of other things to help them. And what I didn't realize at the time, and I do now with lots of my own continued learning, is that when we do that, we actually take away a child's opportunity to grow through adversity and to actually pick themselves back up, dust off their knees, and carry on playing the game, or in whatever capacity they're doing. So it is a huge learning, and I think that you'll notice that a lot of my information that I'm going to be delivering is in part about that, how we can empower our children to develop their own resilience and their own ability and strengths and confidence in themselves. One of the things I noticed in the Oak Bay News earlier this month, an article from UVIC, keeping their emotions in check, and the UVIC counseling clinic is now noticing a rise, a huge rise, which I'm reading all over with the World Health Organization and other agencies. But 1 in 4 students are accessing the clinic now for most often depression and anxiety. And so what interests many authors and writers and researchers is why in a world when we have such incredibly caring parents in our part of the world, do we have such an incredible rise in anxiety and depression? And I think you may see some connections here as I carry on. One of the pieces I wanted to just link Heather's work with the brain is my understanding in reading Medina and Gabor Mate and several other authors about the brain and stress is that if we suddenly were sitting here and a lion came barging in through the door, all our chemicals for fight, flight, or freeze would go rising up, and then we'd dash under chairs or get into fight mode or whatever we needed to do to protect ourselves and each other. And then when the tiger was taken care of, we'd all go, that's over, phew, it's done, we managed. The difficulty with stress is that, especially for our kids, is that level of fight, flight, or freeze, those chemicals that are kicked in when we're in that mode, is always up there. So instead of having a chance to go down and get flushed out of your system, it's always up there. And that's where my understanding of it, and I'm not the neuroscientist or the medical practitioner, but my understanding is that's where it becomes very detrimental to our kids and ourselves too in terms of our own physical health and well-being. So as I start, I want to just clarify an assumption that I make, and this is a model I actually use with my kids at the senior school level, is that we are a whole being, and every single part of us is a really important piece that we need to factor in when we're looking at life and the bumps and adversity and how we're dealing with them. So we have an intellectual part, we have a body, a social part, emotional part, and the I in the center, which I consider to be sort of the core of a child's identity, who they are, who they believe they are, their values, their ethics. And for some students, it might also be their religious orientation, is that sense of spirituality. So when I work with the students and I'm looking at their mental health, I'm looking at their level of stress, I'll actually go through them with this. And how is this affecting you at school? How is this affecting you, your emotions and your emotional regulation? How is it affecting you with your relationship with your friends and your body? And for instance, we know that stress impacts learning. And that's one of the best ways I can get some of our especially high achieving students to relax a little bit and try and take some time for self-care, because they are so hardworking and so diligent and staying up to 2 and 3 in the morning that they are not able to concentrate and focus as well as they want to. And so this is a really important piece of that the whole stress and resilience puzzle. On page 10, if you could look to page 10 on your handout, there is a profile called the Employability Skills profile that was created actually quite early on, but it is the employability skills that are needed for the 21st century as deemed important by businesses, educators, high school educators, university educators, CEOs of different companies. They all got together and they created this list. The thing I love about this list is that it includes 3 main areas of learning and of strength that our children need to have to be successful in the 21st century. The first, of course, is intelligence and ability to learn, and they've got it classified here as academic skills. The second is awareness of self, being able to manage regulating one's own emotion. Managing stress is a good one. You know, in the workplace, we all get stressed in the workplace every now and then. We hopefully are learning ways, better and better ways to manage that. And then lastly, the ability to work with others and solve social problems or social intelligence. The reason I like referring to this list is because our goals are for your children and our students to have everything in the right place to be able to be successful in their adult world. And so building resilience is a huge part of that. One of the things when we're talking about stress, we talk about life balance. And one of my new jobs and my new roles in the school is to create a wellness initiative for our whole school community. And it's lovely. And one of the things we're looking at is how are we going to define that? Well, maybe it should be something about balance and life balance. So I started researching that a little bit more. And I came up with an absolutely lovely concept, and that is that maybe there isn't such a thing as balance. Because the analogy is that it's elusive and unobtainable, but, sorry, not the analogy, the metaphor is that it's a little bit like, we are a little bit like a sailboat. And sometimes our seas are very calm and lovely, and our keel helps us stay upright. Sometimes they're really tumultuous, and when we're whipping back and forth, and we've got those sails, but we've got that keel still to help us rebound. And then sometimes we will fall, we fall, and then hopefully with the keel and skill and everything else, we can get ourselves back up to balance or back up to a place where we can carry on. I know Heather gave a few other examples, but it's a nice metaphor that I think can be well applied. So, building resilience is an intelligent thing to do, resilience skills for emotional and social intelligence. And again, going back to the Conference Board of Canada. So I'm going to talk about 3 main strategies today. And again, and at the end, I do have another list of other just quick things that you could do. Probably some of them you're already doing. And then it'll just affirm what a great parent you are. So, time to reflect. One of the things, there's an author by the name of Carl Honore who writes a book called Slow Parenting and Under Pressure. And one of the things he talks about is that our children are so rushed and so active and so involved, especially here at this school. And when I say our children, I know I'm generalizing, but basically this isn't just SMU. This is a trait that's happening worldwide in developing countries anyway. But this is a list similar to the one Heather had up earlier. But because our kids are so busy and involved, and we've got them going from soccer to piano lessons. One of the families this author cited in his book is a mom whose husband was very busy at work and had 5 different children who were involved in 5 different activities. And so she spent all her time trying to, meals in the car and water bottles in the back and, for soccer practice and so on. And what we're not giving our kids is the time to have time to just reflect and build self-awareness. Have time to just go inside for a little while and check out, how do I really feel about that? And I know I'm using adult language for something that's not, but So to develop their moral and ethical boundaries, to understand and regulate emotions, to understand self-talk, to develop communication skills, to practice self-kindness and self-care, like to make a mistake and go, oh, I really hurt that kid. I'm not going to do that again. That doesn't make me feel good in my tummy. I need to do it a different way. Maybe I can ask Mommy how I'm going to do that, you know? And to develop empathy. Those are really important opportunity for our kids to have that time. Carl Honore, I absolutely love this quote, is children thrive when they have the time and space to breathe, to hang out and get bored sometimes, to relax, to take risks and make mistakes, to dream and have fun on their own terms, even to fail. If we are to restore the joy of childhood, adults need to step back a little to allow children to be themselves. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in the center of Toronto, and in the summer we were gone from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. out on our bikes, and you know, in a busy area of Toronto. All you had to do is make sure you're home by dark, you know, and I don't think that happens anymore, and I realize that for safety reasons it's not a great idea, but our world has changed a lot. And I think part of it, and Carl Honore says that, and I'm guilty of this too, is part of it is our own anxiety, parenting our kids to make sure that they are happy and successful as adults. And maybe I should just speak for myself, but I know I get anxious sometimes when I feel my kids aren't making good choices or whatever. So the second strategy is mindfulness practice. Has anybody heard of this before? Meditation, mindfulness? It's still kind of, the meditation word is kind of a 70s or 60s thing, and I try and stay away from that. So when I heard about mindfulness, I thought, oh good, I can jump on this one and use it with kids and so on. And what it is basically is a sort of structured time for people to quieten everything down and to be quiet, a little bit connected to the time to reflect. It requires paying attention to the present moment from a stance that is non-judgmental and non-reactive. This promotes a foundation for resilience and flexibility. It's a little bit of a confidence-building opportunity too, of really checking in. Well, did that person really say that? No, I don't think they really meant that. So, you know, maybe I need to ask them. So all that stuff, because apparently we have 80,000 thoughts a day. Have you heard that before? We have about 80,000 thoughts a day. And for many people, 70 to 80% of those tend to be negative. And we're raising our kids to be critical thinkers, analytical thinkers. So of course they're going to look at something and go, I don't like the way she's wearing her glasses. You know? Like that's what we're doing. So what we need to do is give them an opportunity to go, I don't need to go there. I can turn off that dial. So, reframing thoughts. This is the one I have a lot of fun with, and I'm going to have fun with you guys with this too, because I do this with the kids. They get to the point now where they come into my office and say, yeah, Ms. Ronning, I was really reframing that concept and that negative thought I had, and I've been doing that self-talk thing, changing the radio station, and because this is one of the parallels I give the kids, is imagine it's like a radio station, this negative babbling that's going on all the time. It's a negative radio station, all you need to do is change the channel. But then we have to help them become skilled at filling it with something else. It's more positive. Is everybody with me? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. So this is a cycle of thinking, because the first thing that happens when information goes into our brain is usually we think. Unless it's so threatening, then we go right into the fight, flight, or freeze mode. So if somebody says something, makes a comment, we go into our thinking brain, often our self-critical brain, and then we have a thought, then we have a feeling based on the thought, we have a perception about our whole being or our whole world based on the thinking and the feeling, and then we behave in accordance with that. And I'm going to explain what I mean. So here, this is the cycle. So basically start with an event. So the example, I'll give you an example in a minute, but the event, then thoughts about the event, thoughts, feelings based on those thoughts, perception of self based on the thoughts and feelings, and then the behavioral response. So the example I use with students often is a low test result. The kids, especially here, oh my gosh, they are so hard on themselves. It's crazy. I'll get kids with 93% in something, and they're in my office crying because they did not get a good enough mark. So for them even, we'll look at a low test result, then the self-talk that they do which is usually around, I'm so stupid, I'm a loser or whatever. The feeling is I'm sad, disappointed, angry. Perception, I'm never going to succeed. And then the physical behavior, who has energy to put more effort into something when you're thinking all those thoughts? It's just very difficult to push. It's difficult for me to push through that as an adult. So here is a different way of looking at a way of reframing it. Low test result, a student reframing it to, oh, maybe I just didn't get this part. Maybe that was a piece I missed. Maybe I need to work harder. The feeling-based response to that could be disappointed but still hopeful. Perception, I'm okay. This is just about math. I don't need to make it a whole global negative thing about myself. And then the behavioral response, we'll try harder next time to get the teacher's help. Okay? So this is a really excellent, excellent way, and they are proving that now, I mean, this is a lot like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and some of the other psychological therapies they have of reframing and changing that self-talk that's going on. So, then I have some additional strategies, and again, some of these are ones that I think you probably are already using. The one thing a student can do is write their thoughts down, put negative thoughts in a jar or box and revisit later, so it sort of becomes contained rather than free-floating anxiety or free-floating worry, is you have this precious place that you can put your worries and have a special worry box. Do you remember the little worry dolls? I think they make them in Mexico, and you can stick them under your pillow and they take care of your worries in the night. Journal writing is not usually a boy thing. They do not like journal writing, but I'll get them even to do some journaling on a computer. Doesn't have the same connection though for depth, but even still to get some of that stuff out that's going on inside their mind is really helpful. And remember, I just want to bring it back to the connection that this is all about resilience. This is all about self-awareness and learning how to, who they are and how they've managed different situations, and giving them that confidence to push through a problem and push through adversity so they can feel strong. Acknowledge feelings non-judgmentally. Deep breathing for emotional self-regulation. It's amazing what 3 deep breaths can do for just taking stock and getting a good sense of what's going on. Sometimes when kids come in conflict, I'll say, okay, before you go and deal with that conflict, remember to take 3 deep breaths before you say anything. And they're usually pretty good. They notice it, like they'll sit in the office and, okay, you know, everything seems a little bit more manageable. This is a really effective tool, and this also really helps with depressive thinking if a child is starting to feel really down, is write 3 things a day that went well and one sentence as to why. So it might even be something as simple as the sun was shining today. Why? Because it made me feel happy. If you do it for 21 days, and I actually tried it, if you do it for 21 days, your list grows and grows, and then you start getting to the point where you look for things that you can put on your list later in the end of the day. Even if the list kind of goes by the wayside, you're kind of looking and searching for those things that are good. So I know that some of these strategies are looking a little bit more at mental health and depression and anxiety, but I do believe that that is a strong connection to the resilience piece as well. And do one thing at a time. Multitasking is something that they're proving now is not really, I think we used to be really pride ourselves in being super moms and things like that, but I know sometimes when I'm driving my daughter home, I'll say, you know, what did you do today, honey? And she'll tell me, and then 5 minutes later, what did you do today, honey? And she's, Mom, you already asked me that, and I just feel a little bit like that wasn't a very good parenting thing to do at all, but lots of physical activity, increased choices and activities that provide a perception of control. Heather was talking earlier about control. Teach children how to navigate social conflict in healthy ways. One of the parallels I draw for my peer counselors is that I tell them that we give our students and our children math textbooks, teachers, tests, opportunities to practice, tutors, opportunities to write tests over again from a very early age, 4 and 5 up. And what do we do for social skills? We expect them to learn by watching others. What ends up happening is they end up usually watching others who are also kind of bumbling through and trying to get it by learning just from experience. We don't have any concrete instruction on how to manage conflict. And I think sometimes even we as adults struggle with dealing with that. And conflict is one of the things that arises all the time in school. And so again, another resilience piece is how can we help our kids learn how to navigate those bumps in a really healthy way. And we have, but before we start that, this is I think the finale, is I wanted to just mention that, I did have an ending piece here. One of the things I wanted to mention to you is that I have a peers group that are grade 12s. And in June of last year, I asked them what they would like to do this year to study, because they've been with me for 4 years now, learning. And they've learned all the communication skills and conflict management skills and mediation skills and everything else, and they're great experts. And one of them said, well, how about a book study? And I said, what a great idea. You know, we'll do it like a, you know, when you go once a month to study a particular book. They wanted to study brain rules. And so we meet about once every 10 days, and each group of students pick a chapter, and they teach us the chapters of this book, and they absolutely love it. They've just gobbled it up. Most of them read the book by mid-October, and have their presentations all ready and everything else. And I just think that's such a neat thing that these kids who are 16, 17 years of age are really inspired by learning how the differences of how all our brains work and so on. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that the wellness initiative that I've been asked to rally a team of teachers and people around to get organized is also partly looking at this too, looking at the whole child, looking at wellness from a holistic perspective. So you will probably over the next 6 months to a year be hearing a little bit more about how we're proceeding and how we're going to venture into that place, because it will be primarily for students, but also for staff and hopefully parents as well. So we'll have some talks carrying on with that in that vein. And the last thing I just wanted to, we have created a handout for you that have lots of resources here. One of them is Spot Depressive Thoughts on page 11. And this is one that I find really helpful for young people as well, is to help them identify when they start getting into the critical thinking. And you know, how this connects to resilience also is if let's say there is a social glitch, a social problem that's come up, is to have them think about the way they're thinking about the problem or the person or the conflict. And often you can find with some gentle tweaking of their self-talk, it helps them feel empowered to deal with the problem in a much healthier way and with their confidence and self-esteem intact. So there are also a list of resources that we find really helpful. And if you have any questions, you know where we are.
In a minute, but I want to kind of wrap up for those of you that, you know, count on us ending in a timely way. And I'm going to just share a very short YouTube video with you. It's a gentleman who's from Australia. I couldn't find a clip that didn't have subtitles, maybe Korean subtitles. This gentleman goes around and speaks to kids all over the world. He's been in Canada and the US as well. And I thought when we're talking about resilience and we're talking about that ability to get up and to go on, it's a really powerful message. I was at a conference last week, mainly presenters from Harvard, Stanford, Brown, all those sort of Ivy League universities. And one of the speakers, a lot of them were talking about allowing our kids to fail, to stumble. And one speaker said to us as educators and parents, have them fail often and fail young. You know, just that. And as a parent, I go, you're kidding me. I don't, you know, but the idea of that, being able to fall down and get back up. And I think this speaker for the last 2 minutes really captures that.
And get some techno going like, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. There you go. You like that? Is that cool? Beautiful. But I'm obviously, along the way, you might fall down like this. Ready? So what do you do when you fall down? Get back up. Everybody knows to get back up, because if I start walking, I'm not going to get anywhere. But I tell you, there are some times in life where you fall down and you feel like you don't have the strength to get back up. Do you think you have hope? Because I tell you, I'm down here, face down, and I have no arms, no legs. It should be impossible for me to get back up, but it's not. You see, I will try 100 times to get up, and if I fail 100 times, if I fail and I give up, do you think that I'm ever going to get up? No. But if I fail, I try again, and again, and again. But I just want you to know that it's not the end. It matters how you're going to finish. Are you going to finish strong? And you will find that strength to get back up like this.
So a really powerful message. You know, I watch that periodically just to get perspective. That gentleman is loved all over the world, and his message is true. You know, it matters how you finish, and how are our kids going to finish? Are they going to finish strong? And are we going to help them to do that?